CSS Albemarle was the namesake vessel in the Albemarle class of Confederate ironclads. It was designed by Confederate naval constructor John Luke Porter, and it was referred to as a diamond hull design because if you look at the drawings from the end, it was kind of a diamond shape. These ships were built with flat bottoms so that they were shallow enough draft to operate in the rivers and sounds of eastern North Carolina. While there were initially supposed to be 3 ironclads in this class, only 2 were built, the CSS Albemarle and the CSS Neuse in Kinston. The 3rd vessel had begun construction at Tarboro, but was destroyed by a Union raid in July of 1863, well before it was completed. The CSS Albemarle was built upriver from Plymouth at a place called Edwards Ferry. It was built in a cornfield alongside the river, which certainly was not an ideal situation for constructing an ironclad, but the Confederates were making do as best they could.
The Albemarle was 158 feet long. Its beam was 34 feet, and it had a draft of 8 or 9 feet. She had 4 inches of armor plating on the casemate and a 2-inch belt of armor plating at the waterline. The deck and everything below the deck were left unplated. The ironclad was armed with 2 6.4-inch Brooke rifles.
The Union forces here at Plymouth always knew that there was an ironclad being built upriver. It was something that concerned them. And they knew one day that ironclad would appear from upriver. They just didn't know when. In April of 1864, as General Robert F. Hoke made an attempt to retake Plymouth from the Federal forces here, the ironclad was ordered to launch and come down river.
The commander, James W. Cook, launched the ship before she was completed.
On the way down river, workmen were still working on the ironclad, putting finishing touches on the ironclad. They had a portable forge on the deck of the ship that they were using to complete the work. They found the ship was difficult to steer, and so they turned it around backwards and descended the river stern first while dragging their anchors behind them to help stabilize the vessel. However, once the vessel arrived here at Plymouth, she was complete, or as complete as she would be, and Cook quickly readied the ship for action.
The Union fleet at Plymouth was commanded by Charles W. Flusser. Among his ships were the Miami and the Southfield.
Well, as the Albemarle appeared coming down river, this thing that they had feared for so long was now right in front of them, and they had to come up with a plan to try to combat it. Flusser decided that they would try to ensnare the Albemarle between the 2 ships and pound it into submission. He connected the Miami and the Southfield using chains and nets and wanted to catch the Albemarle in between. As Cook brought the Albemarle into action, he realized very quickly what Flusser was trying to do. And in order to counter that action, he went full speed ahead at the Union ships and swung the Albemarle hard to starboard.
The Confederate ironclad punched a large hole in the side of the Southfield, causing the Federal ship to sink rapidly.
While this certainly created panic on board the Southfield, it created some concern on the CSS Albemarle as well, because the bow of the Albemarle was hung up inside the Southfield, and as the Southfield was sinking, she was taking the Albemarle with her. Confederate sailors began to get concerned as the water got closer to their forward gun ports. Luckily for the Albemarle, when the Southfield hit bottom, she listed to one side, and when she did, the Albemarle popped free up out of the hole like a cork. Flusser was still determined to try to damage the Albemarle as much as he could, and he pulled the lanyard on a 9-inch Dahlgren gun on board the USS Miami. Unfortunately, that was a bad decision for Flusser. The shell ricocheted off the casemate of the Albemarle back over onto the Miami and exploded, immediately killing Flusser and numerous other sailors. At that point, the Union Navy disengaged from the conflict, and the Albemarle was free to assist the Confederate Army in their attack on Plymouth. Cook immediately refocused his efforts on the Union fortifications around Plymouth and began shelling them from the river. In the end, the Albemarle ended up being the deciding factor in the Battle of Plymouth, in the fact that it was able to shell the Union fortifications from the river and force the Union to surrender. After the battle, the Albemarle came to dock here at Plymouth and was here for quite some time defending the town from any efforts by the Union to recapture.